We're going live. Hello, everyone.
Hey, gang.
We were trying to give
already here.
Dominic some time to make some drinks.
As usual, I'm behind schedule.
And he's behind schedule.
Wow, I did not see that bottle right there.
You get your beta code. But yeah, hi Teen Zeit. And thank you, Crispy, or Shameful Wizard, shall I say, for sending over Teen Zeit. And Milo Del Mal, hello.
What are we fangirling over? I'm missing it. Who's Brando? Guys, I'm so out of the loop.
Dom!
Hey!
You're the
I didn't know what we're fangirling over. I'm sorry.
I told you, people miss you in your beard.
The beard.
Beard.
Thank you, I appreciate it. Well, welcome back, me. Also, welcome back, all of you. As you know, I'm Dominic. This is my co-host.
I'm Mimi. And this is...
Hello, I'm Ittai.
Hi, Ittai.
I'm new.
Mr. Beard, I have heard the legend. Oh, you're infamous.
No. Is this another follower?
Crispy's.
Another follower of the beard? The beardening?
The beardening.
Beard Club.
Hey, team. Well, welcome to Twitch Tuesdays at 12 p.m.
Yes.
I got it.
You did it.
Hello.
It only took like a year.
Yeah. Barely.
What?
So,
I'm being told to flip my hair by Eric.
it's probably in the way of the microphone.
Yeah, I know.
The audio is getting the I don't have a term for this, actually. I'm really bad at this. I'm sorry.
I don't know, some sort of feedback.
Yeah, feedback. Salmon! I just thought.
Beards and salmon.
Fantastic.
Right. What is
Legend.
This? Legend.
Dude, that's great. You have your own following. Congratulations.
I do. Yes, regrettably, yes.
No,
Top
not
10
regrettably.
Itai in the world.
I mean, there's only like 5 people with that name, so I'm not sure who the other 5 are.
Well, you're above them.
I don't know. I think it goes me and then numbers like 9 through.
So I'm trying to figure out, Shameful Wizard, what is this emoji that you're putting up? What is that? Does anyone know what that is?
That's the rainbow salmon.
Oh.
They made the rainbow salmon.
It's a rainbow salmon.
Yeah. Right? Tell me, hey,
what is
Crispy, am I right?
Everyone just squinting at the screen trying to figure out like...
nice.
We're scrolling.
It's so close. How is that a salmon?
I assumed it's like a rolled up salmon. Guys, what happened? No one's telling us.
No, it's
we want to know.
Shameful Wizard, what is that emoji?
We need to know. We absolutely need to know.
So what do we, well, first of all, Dom's making drinks.
Yeah.
Because I had a request.
Yeah.
Because tomorrow's my birthday. So I said...
Boo, 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 boo. Oh, I meant to do that for real. Wait.
No,
wait
I don't
for
want
it. No, wait for it.
Want
Yeah,
I
know.
don't
You don't
want
get a choice with me.
Get an air horn.
Hold on.
Blow out all the
Hold on.
mics.
Hold on. Wait for it. Wait for it. Everyone stand by.
Yay!
I love that. She was so ready for that.
Yay.
Anyways, yes.
We're
So
in high
tomorrow
school.
is Mimi's birthday. And so because of that, she had a special request. Her favorite cocktail is the Manhattan.
Yes.
Which, as we all know, is a little bit, or a lot of it, of some fantastic rye whiskey, some sweet vermouth, a hint of bitters, and a maraschino cherry.
Yes.
So.
Luxardo cherries are even.
Yeah, and that's it.
Is that what these are?
No, these are not Luxardo, unfortunately.
Oh, they don't look like the fake candy.
Exactly,
cherries.
and that's what's key. They're not the fake candy. They're still legit.
I have never had this.
It might be a little intense. Do you like whiskey?
Yeah.
You
I do
don't
enjoy some
have
whiskey.
to, because I can drink this for you, or most likely Mimi can, actually, since it's her birthday.
I've been getting into whiskey. One of my friends bought me a bottle of Suntory whiskey for my birthday.
Dude, that's legit.
Yeah, no. It was nice. I was really happy about it. 21? Yeah, I'm 21. Dude, I'm like bald. Like the reason I wear a hat, I'm 21. Trust me, I'm 21.
All right, so while you finish doing these drinks, we're going to talk about what is it that you, well, we know what you do here. So reiterate your position here at Blind Squirrel Games.
Me or Ittai?
No, you.
Oh, okay.
Not,
welcome, team. I don't know why I keep on doing that. So, as Dominic, I'm the engineering manager. Ahoy! Sorry, I just like that word. And so really, my day-to-day is a number of things. Most importantly, doing engineering work at the moment. I'm lead on a project here. And then also, I do a lot with outreach and, as a result, interviewing. So I'm always out and about looking for the best and brightest to come join us here. I found Ittai along the way, and I managed to get him here, which is I'm pretty thankful for. Yeah. So thank you for coming aboard. Ahoy, as it says.
Thank you for hiring me.
You're welcome. And so I do a lot of that, and so I have obviously multifaceted, but I really enjoy the outreach and getting to know people, especially students who have a passion for games and want to get in. Again, I think Ittai is a perfect example of that.
Yeah.
So
Ittai, what do you do here?
Yeah.
I'm an engineer. I'm working on projects I can't talk about. So
Yeah.
I primarily do graphics programming. I did a lot of shader work when I was in college, and now I do a lot of Vulkan work, which is really fun. But yeah, so I'm a graphics programmer essentially.
Very cool. And so this is your first game industry job, correct?
This is my first game industry engineering job.
Okay.
I held a QA position for about a month before
wow.
this.
Where was that?
That was at Idea Factory in Gardena. They do. They're essentially the American publishing branch for this series called Neptunia, which is this degenerate anime series. Like I worked on some like hardcore nonsense that like I just really don't want to talk about.
Like hentai, you're talking about. You could say it.
It was like hentai. It was almost hentai. It was very close.
Softcore
It
hentai?
was so like it was terrible.
So there were only like 2 or 3 tentacles, not like 8.
I was trying to think of it.
Wow. This. All right. I'm gonna need more of this alcohol than I thought.
It's one of those little baby squares, not like the full Kraken.
Oh no! It was really.
What the heck is going on?
We don't know.
It was a pretty rough
Hey,
game.
someone's hosting us.
Yeah,
Hey!
Refried Condom is hosting us.
But you know what? That's our core demographic.
All right.
I'm really excited that someone named Refried Condom and Eric just died, which rarely happens.
Guys, this is fantastic.
Perfect. We're starting this stream talking about.
Hey!
Thank you, Refried Condom. Dom, I love you.
I don't know what's going
Things
on.
are getting weird.
I like that Jolly Jolly-O says. Dom
nice.
says a lot of no words. That is correct. That is what I do.
All
But yeah,
right, so we were talking about hentai and refried condoms.
Yep. Great stream.
So, no, we're talking about
yeah, I worked there for about a month working on a terrible game. That being said, I loved the people there. It was a great company to work for. The
Nice.
worst part about that job was the game I was having to play.
Oh, okay.
That's a bummer.
Oh yeah, because you were just testing. You were QA.
Yeah, I was QA. I was literally like, and it was a game that had already came out, so it was like, hey, just make sure there's no Japanese in this game. Essentially, just make sure.
Oh, interesting.
It was fun.
It was a port?
It was a port. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It was a port of a Vita game to the Switch.
Oh,
it was
Vita. That's a
yeah,
thing,
it was.
right?
Hey, I love the Vita.
No, I agree. It was great.
That's
it's
a great.
It was
that's a great
sad. It was
handheld.
so short-lived. That was the real problem there.
Like I look at the Switch now and I'm like, man, you're just the new Vita. Like, but you're good.
Yeah, I was
like,
gonna say,
like
like,
people like you.
We can put. It's because we can put big boy games in them.
Yeah.
Ittai woke up and told me he was worried about the stream. This is the best stream. I agree.
Thanks, Greg.
We've already started with like all the weirdness.
Yeah.
This has already.
It's what we do. We just start with it. Set the attitude.
Set that.
Go get him.
Go eat tiger.
I've never heard that. I've
Tiger.
never gotten.
Dude, that one's great. That's what we're gonna call it.
That's
That's
good.
gonna stick. That's gonna stick.
Yeah. Okay, sorry. I'm almost done here.
It's gonna be like you and Connor. It's like
we
"Caw,
apologize.
Connor."
This is why we tried to get him to do this before he came on, but he was late as always.
As always.
So now you have to listen to
is
his
good.
clanking glass.
Do you really like it?
Yeah.
Nice.
Do you really like it?
Vito laughed at me, okay?
Meme stream.
Meme stream.
Yeah.
So
meme.
what got you? I want to ask both you guys this question. What got you each into engineering? What made you go that way? Because I know some people that it actually appeals to them, and some people are just like, I hear these people make money now.
Yeah.
No. So when I
Cheers. Happy birthday, Mimi.
Thank you.
Happy birthday!
Thank you.
Yay!
Yay!
Friendship.
Okay, so in high school, I was a big Halo fan, and they put out these vid docs where it was essentially like, it was like the prequel to streaming out development. It was essentially like, hey, check out what we're doing. And my dumb teenager brain is like, oh, people make video games? I want to do that. So the engineering actually came afterwards. I wanted to be a game developer, and then I was a good STEM student, so I was like, well, how do you get into game development? Programming. So I started doing programming in high school, and it was rough. I had a not particularly great teacher. But over time, it was just kind of like, okay, you know, I can actually do this, like, cool. And then eventually I hit college, and I was a computer game science major, which was essentially like computer science, but with a dab of games. So it just kind of was like a progressive of like, hey, I want to do games. Okay, how do I do games? Do engineering. Okay, I'll do engineering. Okay, cool, I'm doing engineering for games. It's just like, all right.
I mean, it makes sense.
Is that really, engineering is really like the core mechanics of it, right? Like you're seeing how the game works from a basic level.
Well,
yeah, but you need all of it, right?
Right,
like,
to
but
make a
I mean,
game.
but inherently, without engineering, you have no functionality potentially.
Right.
But at the same time, you could also say without art, you don't have anything to look at.
Right.
You maybe can make a square shoot another square, but they're just squares. It's like, okay, no one's going to play that.
I've seen a lot of square games.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think you equally need all of it. But I think in general, engineering tends to be some of the most challenging just because of how much goes behind the scenes into learning all that. And that's not to say the other ones are less challenging. It's just like there's so much that goes on in engineering. We need so many specializations, and there's just not a lot of people that do it, which kind of sucks. So as it turns out, for me, whenever I got into engineering, it was actually similar. I was in high school, but it was by chance. I just like playing games, and I like being on the computer. And I looked into, electives in high school, and there was this class called computer science. I'm like, well, it has computer in the name. Let me see how this goes. And I took computer science, and there we are making bank applications. I'm like, well, this is fun. But it actually was. It was enjoyable.
I'm surprised you continued on your path.
Yeah, I know.
That would have been the end of it for me.
It's better than what I had to do. I had to use, have you ever used Alice?
I actually have.
Alice is, I had to use Alice.
Yeah.
That was awful.
Yeah, in that, especially at the high school level. Like, I used it, our teacher taught us it so we could do a group to teach, like, actual little kids how to program. So but having to use that, Yeah,
that was rough.
But all that to say, I finally, our first big project, or one of our first big projects, was doing Battleship, and just text-based, like a little X. Did you hit the X? Oh no, like, and that's when I started to realize, like, wait, people do this, like, this is how games are made.
Right.
Like, I had never thought about how a video game was made. It just video games showed up, And then finally, in doing the Battleship program, I'm like, oh, this is like a thing. I can do this. So, like, 10th grade of sophomore year is when I was like, 10th grade of high school, sophomore year of high school. I was like, man, well, I guess this is what I want to do. Like, and I literally I stuck with it, and I was like, I'm gonna do computer science so I can do games. And here I am.
Here he is.
It's so weird. So many people don't really understand, or like, there's like a weird aha moment everyone has, where it's just like, oh, games are made this way. Like, this is the way that games are created.
There's a process behind this.
Yeah, exactly.
But it's like, like no one thinks about it until they're confronted with it.
Right.
Yeah, literally. And that's what the fun part is of being on the developer side, like.
Look, Mom, you finally made it.
That's the fun part of being on the developer side is, hearing on the social media side when you have a game announced or a game comes out, and it's like, well, blah, 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 why didn't they do this, and why didn't you do that, and why does this work this way? It's like.
Nine times out of 10, when someone comes on saying, well, if they had just done this, it seems like a fairly obvious, this fix. 9 times out of 10, we did that first, and it was not that.
If you have an idea about how a game should be, it's highly likely that they agreed with it, tried it, and it just straight up didn't work. Games are complicated. Games are really complicated.
We always tend to be on the community side. Like, we want that too, and then for a number of reasons, it just didn't work out.
We would like to fix this. Nice really shirt, Ittai. Where'd you get it?
That's gonna, if we're going through like the college stuff as well, like this is gonna get touched upon.
Oh, that's the VGDC.
Yep.
Nice.
VGDC.
So so we could talk about that, because one of the reasons why we wanted to have both of you on is that a common question is, how do you get hired? Out of college, how do you get experience or enough experience or get hired without any experience? And Ittai was an example of someone who didn't have any or been working at a studio other than QA.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of what was it that allowed him to be hired? Like, what did he have to offer that you went, yes, we can hire this person? Because I know your frustration often is that people aren't learning the things that they need to learn to get hired out of college.
I think that's actually a really good point, because that's inherently what happened with Ittai. So I met Ittai through the video game, the computer game science capstone course.
Yeah.
And were you actually on a project, or were you helping?
I was on a project.
Okay.
Yeah, I was a student. So
okay.
Yeah.
And so I was working with Ittai in that sense, and I hadn't actually really worked with him. Like, you were at this program, you're supposed to mentor the students, and I just didn't have. Ittai wasn't one of the students I was mentoring. He was on a different project.
I was off across the room.
Yeah. But I had heard of Ittai. When I was talking to other students and saying, oh, well, I like candidates that can do this, that, and the other. They're like, oh my God, you have to talk to Ittai. I'm like, okay. So, and I did. And he was a great kid. Sorry. That's how I think of the college students.
It's fine, dude.
And whenever he finally applied with us, I had him do a programming test. And if I may, he actually failed it. He actually did not pass the first time he took the programming test. He actually failed it. And it's mainly just because, like, quite frankly, the C++ knowledge wasn't there.
Which is what he's always talking about.
Yeah,
the
right?
C++ knowledge is so integral to getting hired, and no one's teaching it at school unless it's an elective.
And it balances out, right? Like, if you're a person who, okay, you don't know C++, but you're super strong at math, or you can maybe understand low-level concepts without knowing C++, that's what's great. But inherently, that's my concern. C++ allows you to understand, or C, a number of other languages too, allow you to understand low-level concepts of what it's like to deal with memory. But other high-level languages like Java, Unity, C Sharp within Unity, they don't present you with those issues. And so you never run into them, but those are the issues we deal with daily. So long story long, unfortunately I had to reject Ittai at the time, and I said, dude, apply again later down the road. And 3 months?
Yeah, 3 months later, Jim was at a Beer Wednesday. I ran into Jim, and friends again pointed at me and said, hey, this guy does graphics. I applied through Jim. I just emailed Jim my resume, and the process got restarted. I did the programming test again.
Yeah.
And that time, it was much more C++-y. Like before, I was kind of like, okay, this is how I think you do it. I didn't really understand C++ as well as I should have at the time. 3 months down the line, I understood it much better, and I kind of came back with like more knowledge, better understanding of how I should do this, why I should do this, when I should do this, and just said like, okay, cool, let's do this. And it's funny because I actually took that test and thought I had regressed, but then I got the in-person and I was like, oh, okay. And I was talking to Jim, and Jim was like, yeah, you did better. like you did much better. And I was like, oh, okay, cool, awesome. Like,
what did you do in those 3 months in between?
Yeah.
So a lot of it was like, that was essentially the 3 months between me graduating and me having an actual class. Like my last quarter at college, I pretty much didn't really have a real class. I was working with Greg, who now actually works here, on a C++ project, and I was thinking about it, and I was just kind of looking at C++isms and studying and doing cracking the coding interview stuff. And I was just looking at C++ as a language and trying to remember like, oh, right, pointers are a thing. Oh, right, pass by copy, pass by reference, and all the C++isms that you're just not really confronted with in other languages, like at all. So I was just kind of looking at C++ as a language holistically and trying to understand it better. And then I guess, that all worked out and paid off.
Right.
And then I got here and I was introduced to more concepts, and my brain is like blowing up every other day because it's like, oh, you can overload new. What?
Yeah.
And it's just like all this other stuff where I'm just like, okay, wow, C++ is really deep. Like, what's going on? And it's really fun.
I think that's the key part of it for me is that, you took the time to actually sit yourself down and said, like, I want to learn more of this. And it definitely showed. Like when Ittai applied again and like went through the whole process, like the test was more founded, or like, well, yeah, more founded in like its roots, like in terms of understanding low-level knowledge via C++. And then the on-site was great. Like, Ittai, in particular, we were looking for an entry-level graphics engineer, and Ittai had done the Vulkan tutorial.
Yeah.
That's available online. And just going through that, I think, exposed you to a lot of difficult concepts that come the on-site interview you had, like, you knew a lot of the basics we were asking, which is a good foundation. Yeah. And then from there, obviously, like, he's still learning, as any entry-level person will do. Always take solace in the fact, anyone who's applying entry-level, we don't expect you to know everything. We need you to have some base, that way we can work with you and mold you. But, like, inherently, you cannot know everything. Like, you're an entry-level engineer.
But it can't be so much so that they're a burden, and it's like, I have to teach you everything. You have to be, knowledgeable enough to work on your own, but still have enough gaps in your knowledge that you're malleable and can go forward.
It's a fine line to walk. So all that to be said, like, when you had come back and shown us that, it's like, oh my gosh, yeah, huge improvement, and within such a short amount of time.
Right.
Like the 3 months.
3 months, because I had heard the story. I knew that you had been in before and that you'd done better, but I didn't know it was only 3 months.
I think the first time around, like, I think I didn't use pointers, like, at all.
Yeah.
Like, the first test was, like, no pointer work. Mm-hmm. It was all, like, hey, here's, like, standard vector stuff. Mm-hmm. And it was just, like, that's nonsense. Like I'm using C++. I should use C++, and I shouldn't, like, be reliant on, these things that actually ruined the architecture of that first program. Like I think that first time around, it was, like, 2 hours in, and I was like, oh, I completely messed this up.
Yeah.
Like, and then from there, it was just like done. And then the next time around, it was a test, and I got it, and I was like, okay, now I'm smarter. Let me think about this more than I did before.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. This is how I should do it.
And I think it's also a very real thing. Our test is timed. We have a timed test. Yeah. But I think...
How long is it, though?
4 hours.
4
hours.
Yeah. But I think even aside from our test in particular, no matter when you're doing the test or when you're doing the interview process or who you're doing it with, that inherently is going to be a system of like failures and like practicing to get better at it. Interviewing is still a skill.
Right.
Right. Like you have to know certain things. Like there's just questions that you study for. There's processes. You honestly have to be an appealing person. Like if you have no social skills or if you can't communicate with someone, right, that's not good for an interview. Like you need to force yourself to be uncomfortable, basically. All that to say, like that in itself is a skill. So even if he was on the ball with knowing the knowledge, it's still possible just being a timed test could actually throw you off.
Right.
Like, and unrelated to your actual knowledge. It's like, just you being like, oh my gosh, I only have 4 hours to do this.
Yeah, nerves can play a lot.
And it's funny, the reason we do it timed is not because like, well, you should be able to do it in 4 hours. It's literally, it's like, we don't want you to spend a lot of time on this. Like, we just want you to do what you can, get it in, like, and let us,
4 hours sounds like a lot of time to be working on math stuff.
Well, by comparison, our senior test is 3 days. But at the same time, it's not like it's a full 3-day test. They only work on it a little bit of time because our senior test, we figure the senior applicants are having a life that, they have a family, they have a job, maybe, something like that. So it's like, you have 3 days to do it.
As opposed to you guys.
Yeah, I expect you to slave away.
Yeah, no, I think I chose the worst time to take that test. I always took it at like 11 a.m. So by the time I was done, I was like starving. Because I would take it through lunch essentially, and I'd be like, why did I do this? Why did
you do that both times?
I think I did it both times. I learned C++. Apparently, I didn't learn how to take a test. But
and that's what I mean, though, right? Legitimately, like it's a thing.
Test taking is a skill. Like there are people that are good at test taking.
I used to have terrible like I had terrible anxiety.
Yeah.
Right. So it's just
and that
like
can be a factor in sabotaging
the one way I figured out how to fix my test anxiety was just study like hell. And like that fixed it for the most part, but it was still like I would end up studying so much that I would be looking at these pages and pages and pages, and I'd be like, I've read this like 10 times. Why am I doing this? Why am I still doing this?
Yeah, exactly.
It was very frustrating, but hey, I did well.
Yeah, it worked out, dude. I'm so happy you're here. Yeah, I think you're a big help. And so it's also great because he's also brought on a couple of his friends that know some stuff. So I think it's really good. Looks like we got a question in. Is an Unreal Engine very different versus normal C++? All the macros, generated code, memory management, and Unreal-specific data types. The short answer is yes. Why are we still here? Just to suffer? No. So Unreal Engine does have a lot of differences, but inherently it's still C++. But C++ has grown, as other languages have, to have managed memory.
Yep.
And they use that a bunch. They use what we call smart pointers. So it is very different from normal C++, and when I hire a specific role, say like a gameplay engineer, I'm not so concerned that the very underneath the depth of like low-level memory management. I'm very much more interested in like what for instance, about gameplay stuff, which means you should know a lot of math, like a lot of hard math, and you should understand like high-level object-oriented programming concepts. And in our case, our IP is in Unreal 4, so I would definitely hope you would know Unreal 4, and I would ask you about that. So it does depend on the job role and job function, because if you come in at one of those high-level positions, I'm not going to care that you can do stuff that Ittai can do. And vice versa. Like, I didn't really grill him hard on, like, hey, what do you know about Unreal?
Fun fact, I've never touched Unreal.
Yeah, see.
Like I just haven't touched it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I was pretty much exclusively a Unity person, and then towards the end of college, I was like, I should probably know C++ better than I do right now. Because I did take classes, and those classes are pretty good, but I felt like there was a lot missing.
Yeah.
My understanding about Unreal Engine is that, there's a lot of macros. I'm watching a friend go through it, and he's like just screaming mad at all times about it, it seems.
It's a big engine, and there's a lot of code. Yeah. So in terms of, I guess that, like, finally getting here, that's where we ended up, and I'm happy to have Ittai. I guess maybe the question then becomes what we do on a daily basis, or?
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know Well, we kind of just went over kind of some of the more math stuff. I think that obviously the stuff that you're interviewing for is probably stuff that you're doing on a daily basis. I mean, what is
Tends to be the case.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. What does your day look like as an engineer? And actually, Ittai, I wanted to ask you: does it line up what you thought work would be? Does what they teach you for in a degree, an engineering degree, match up with what you're actually doing on the job?
So do we want to answer this question?
Oh, sure.
Real quick, yeah. So the question is, would the team consider developers' experience with Unity transitioning to Unreal? So absolutely. In that case, right, I'm probably considering you for a gameplay engineer. So it's great that you know Unreal, but I consider that a plus. What I care about more is that you have solid math foundation, because you need that to do gameplay. And then further, that you understand, again, the high-level object-oriented stuff. So you understand design patterns, you understand you just in standard like inheritance as a thing. More of those like concepts that aren't as low-level, basically, right? That doesn't mean I wouldn't ask you about that depending on the role, but specifically if I'm hiring a gameplay engineer, I care about those higher-level things. So whether or not you know Unity versus Unreal isn't a huge thing to me. What matters, right, is like if you tell me your experience with Unity is that in Unity you did everything in the editor, like, and you didn't do a lot of C# scripting, or you didn't have to do anything that the engine didn't handle for you. What I mean by that, right, is like using concepts that are exclusive to Unity is like, you know, I forget, actually, I don't know Unity that well, but like.
There's a lot, like, I'm trying to think, like, if your whole like gameplay loop revolves around like, oh, like I'm gonna have a rigid body, it's like, okay, that's kind of a Unityism, and there's a lot of Unity-isms.
Yeah.
I find that a lot of
because I don't know any.
I don't know any.
There's a lot. There's just a stupid amount of like very easy to trip over Unityisms that if you're stuck in the Unity sphere, you're like, oh, this is how it works. Everything has an update. Everything has an on-trigger enter, and it's just like, I assume for like a variety of engines, they just don't work that way. Like they're not architected that way.
There are some similarities, but the reason I wanted to get into that for a second was just to say, like, if you're doing all of that and you start talking to me about like, oh, in Unity I do this, I know the rigid body system, the game update does this. That's good that you know how that works, but ultimately if that doesn't transfer over, like if I put you in a new engine, you're like, well, this isn't a rigid body, what do I do? Yeah. That's bad. You need to be able to transition over. And it's not that I expect you to know the thing you're going to, it's that I expect you to understand problems at a generic level, right? Because that's exactly what we need. You need to be able to adapt to any problem that's in any type of environment. And that's the hard part. It's very difficult. I'm not going to lie and say that obviously it's an easy thing to understand. That is part of the process. And part of the process is just you doing stuff on your own. You're going to learn it. And as long as you're not just staying surface level, like you're going to have to dig. You will be, again, uncomfortable. Because essentially, for engineering in particular, if you were to just do stuff, say, speaking about Unity in particular, if you were to do stuff inside the editor entirely, that's kind of what a designer or maybe a technical scripter does. That's not inherently what an engineer does. An engineer has to make code that modifies or works within the engine to like do stuff that inherently the designer is not capable of doing. Right, or that any other person like that stays within the editor is just not aware of. Like a designer doesn't necessarily have to know how to program in C#. We would. Yeah. So that's where that difference comes from, and that's what is important in terms of considering people that have that experience going to Unreal. Sorry, long answer to a short question.
Or is too lazy to do.
Correct.
My bottom end thing is that like if you're using Unity, try to understand what Unity is doing on the back end. That's really frustrating because Unity is not open source. I can't actually see it, but it's like, hey, like how does this work? Why is it working this way? And you can figure it out. You can guess it out. Like something about it. I'm trying to think like everything in Unity is a callback. It's just like update is a callback. It's an event being triggered somewhere. But some people don't know that. They don't understand that. They don't understand Unity or events and callbacks, and there's like another term for it. And it's really stuff that you, as an engineer, should understand. Like even if you can't actually mess around with it because Unity is Unity, you should know that.
Understand what that process is.
Yeah, like what is actually happening? Because otherwise, it's like you're just sitting there and you're like, okay, you know, putting it in the update.
Yeah.
And then when someone asks you like, okay, how do you make an update? It's like,
I've never thought about that. And that's the point. Ask those hard questions.
You're welcome, Milo Del Mel. Are you the one sending me tequila? You're welcome. I'm glad I could answer that question for you.
Before we move on to that question, I do because we asked Ittai the question, then we took a break. I am curious if it ended up matching your experience of what you thought working in the industry was going to be like, and then what it actually
or
is.
if they prepared you, not like did they prepare you?
I would argue that school didn't really prepare me. I went into a games major, and the games major had a very particular goal, and I think the end goal was turn everyone into a one-man indie dev. Mm-hmm. Delegates, thank you. That's the term. Thank you. I forgot. It's been a while. The goal of the major was to turn everyone into a one-man indie dev.
Yeah. Which is, I've heard that's kind of your complaint.
Yeah.
Is that you...
I agree. These programs can be great for indie.
It's just a little bit of everything, but you need someone that knows a lot about one thing if you're coming in for jobs.
The issue with the major at the time was that it was being juggled between CS people, like hard CS people who just didn't understand games at all, and people who were not necessarily CS people but understood games.
Yeah.
What ended up happening was that the games people would essentially focus in on all of games like design and the humanities parts of games, minus the art, because UCI has no art program to speak of. And the CS degree that essentially I have a CS degree, they would give us stuff, but it was a lot of stuff like AI, and not like game AI, but like machine learning AI. And they had a graphics class that, in my opinion, was pretty terrible.
So not a lot of real-time stuff.
Yeah, not a lot of real-time. Personally, I think that school did not prep me. What did prep me for the job was my club and everything else I did. But also, hold on, I need to the person who said singletons, please don't. Don't do. I've seen some awful singleton patterns. But essentially, like, my club did prep me, but my club also was like a prep of like, hey, you know, we're gonna teach you how to be a little bit more refined, particular. Still Unity indie dev.
Yeah.
Once I got here, I realized like, okay, no, like it's okay to kind of spend time on something, try to understand something, especially on the project that I'm on, which I cannot talk about. I'm working on more particular things than I thought I would ever work on.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. It's fantastic. I get to do what I love every day, and only what I love.
Yeah.
But it also was like kind of a weird switch, because I was used to essentially being the guy who was like
doing everything.
Yeah. Like I would be helping with scripting. I would be doing, towards the end of my college career, I was essentially doing tech art for the most part. So I was very used to that, and then tech art plus everything else, plus performance optimization, or essentially telling people like, hey, don't do that. That's actually really inoptimal.
Yeah.
To essentially like sitting down every day, grabbing like 4 cups of coffee, and and just doing
mowing through.
Yeah, let's go. Just straight C++ for like hours. And again, Vulkan.
Oh, sorry.
Well, no, I was just gonna say, if you could go back and redo school, would you do it differently? Would you do like a more particular focus, or
what? When you say school, do you mean college? Or?
Yeah, I mean just the degree that you chose, like the video game degree, you know, would you have chosen a different?
Knowing what I need, not necessarily what I know now, I wouldn't even go to college. That's kind of the harsh reality. Is that
I find that that's a constant. I find that is just the general issue with school. Is a lot of the time that it's all about just that piece of paper and saying that degree. You know, like how many times that I had been turned down for jobs because I didn't have a degree, and they're like, and yet I'm the one editing papers for people's doctorates.
Yeah,
and it's like, no, I don't have a degree, but I'm doing all of the work for people that are getting their you know, doctorates and their masters. So why am I not? Obviously, you know, I have the knowledge.
Yeah.
You don't have the piece of paper, and that's really all it symbolizes.
So I have like 74 things to say about this, so I'll say 2 to 3.
Go.
So yeah, I know there's a lot of questions we need to answer. The first being like, just because this is always a question, you do not need to have a degree to get into the industry. You just don't.
Right.
The degree doesn't even tell me anything, because I don't know what you've learned. And what I was going to mention was that, like, even with the things you learn at school, like, I still need you to do stuff on your own, because that's where you learn. Like, what I was going to mention, like, for me, like, I went to a grad school that focused on, like, the game development process. And I would say in terms of preparing me, they did.
Yeah.
I had to work in a multidisciplinary team with artists, production, and designers. Right, I was working in Unreal. I had to make my own engine. They very much prepped me, but at the same time, like it's still what got me jobs and what made me learn more was doing things that no one else in the class was doing. And I'm not talking like I was innovating things, but it's just because it wasn't a class setting where I was learning I was learning it on my own. I was like, oh,
Right.
and it made me understand the concepts by myself, as opposed to being just someone telling me like, hey, this is how you do this.
But as someone said, like, could you have learned what you need to know if you hadn't gone to school? My question though is, like, are these things actually the classroom, even though it's a baseline common denominator amount of knowledge, is it triggering something that you wouldn't have triggered otherwise on your own?
The straight answer to that question, but could you have learned what you need to know if you hadn't gone to school? In my opinion, the answer is yes. But you have to be really good.
Discipline. You have to have the discipline.
You have to be, like, if you're going to do like the YouTube University, that's totally fine. Yeah. But you have to grow at an exponential rate. I just hired someone that, they actually didn't even finish high school. Yeah. Like they just started programming when they were younger and did that, and even through their what would be their college years, just did more programming, and then they know a lot.
That dude is so good.
Yeah. So there's just like
I know for me personally the answer to that question. No.
Well, I can't. I can't say that on stream.
But
go ahead.
But I know for me personally, the answer to that question: could you have learned what you needed to know if you hadn't gone to school? Harsh reality answer is probably I wouldn't have known what I need to know. The one thing I will say that was good about school is that it put me in a place where I learned what I needed to learn. Yeah. It put me in a place where I could learn. Now that I have a job, there's so much less time for me to be like, all right, let's go try something dumb. Let's go try Rust. Like, let's go write some Rust code or something. Yeah. But, I do think that college is not very good for learning, but college is a good space for learning.
Right.
Interesting.
No, I agree.
So wise.
Yeah. But I think it depends on the person too. Like, I get frustrated in school where it's like there's more I want to know, and I get more out of like having discussions with professors and stuff like that.
Same.
And being one-on-one. But then you also have jackass here whose parents made him go to college, and he's just fucking around and ruining it for everyone. Yeah. And so you have like this mishmash of people, and I feel like knowing if you're focused and you're getting the input from the professor, you're going to those professors and you're putting in the extra effort, then you're going to get more out of school.
And that's so for me, I actually had the same response as Ittai. Like, I can't do, again, the YouTube University. I'm not that disciplined. I learn by asking questions. I can't ask a video a question.
Right.
If someone could work on that, that'd be great. But like,
that's why we're here.
Oh my God.
That's what we're doing, guys.
Oh my God. So like, if that's the biggest thing for me. That's how I learn. I am a very like visual and tactile learner. Like, I need to play with things and ask questions in the process. I can't just like take notes and be like, yep, I understand that. Never could. Yeah. Office hours is where I succeeded in college.
Right.
Because I was in all of my that's the only reason I got through college. Was because I was in my professor's offices asking like, what about this? What about this? How does this work? And that's the only reason I got those.
Will you go up, Eric? There's a few. There's a lot. we got on a tangent. I think it was even up
Peanut Bread Game Dev asked about something.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so what are your thoughts on object-oriented versus data-oriented design?
So I know him, and I've talked about this. I will say this. Now that I'm actually working, so I understood object-oriented design, OOP, but I never actually understood why it was good. Like, that was the thing about college, is that they put something in front of you, and oftentimes
just learn this.
Yeah, it's like, this is a person, and now a doctor is inherited from a person. And it's just like,
okay,
I don't
how it
care.
Works.
Like, what?
Yeah, sure, that's how things work.
And now I'm kind of realizing, like, okay, no, like, there actually is very, very, very good use cases for OOP.
There's also very good use cases for data-oriented design. So it depends. Yeah. You'll find out that's the answer for everything.
Something that I kind of wanted to
in life
bring up in the previous question was that my college, specifically UCI, because it's in Orange County, gave me so much access to game developers.
Yeah, you guys are filthy lucky.
Yeah, like one of the mentors for Capstone was Tim Ford, who's the lead programmer on Overwatch.
That also, I think, is a benefit to college if you're taking advantage of the networking that it allows for, which that is something that, unless you're a really tenacious person, you're not going to get unless you're at a school.
Yeah. And this specific question is brought up because like I talked to Tim Ford a lot about data-oriented design and ECS and that stuff. And I was kind of like, because I just straight up didn't understand OOP. Like, I understood it, didn't really get why it was good.
Yeah.
I would often preach like, hey, we should probably be going in DoD. And I still believe that data-oriented design is a good idea. I still think that. Yeah,
it has a very good use case.
Yeah, and I hope the industry slowly starts shifting over there. But now that I've seen like what a proper object-oriented implementation can be, on my project especially, I'm like, okay, I'm a little bit less extreme about my opinion on this.
And it really, it always comes down to like, I mean, we can get on so many tangents.
Yeah,
I just like talking. The point is yes.
Same, dude.
The answer to the question, data-oriented or object-oriented, yes.
Yeah. Make sure it's architected well.
Yeah.
OOP will force you to architect hopefully well enough, but there's probably some pretty terrible OOPs out there.
I feel like Kitty's giving us a cue, but I like it. Also, I have heard of Dora.
Did we have like the Explorer?
Yeah. Donde está? I don't know any. That's it.
Oh, biblioteca.
Biblioteca. Yeah. Okay, I know 3 words. Yeah. Tortilla. It's actually just English. I just say it with a Spanish accent. Continue.
Did we have more questions up?
Before we get, I do want to get to Kitty's question.
No. Every project we did at UCI was small, either in teams or time span.
Yeah.
He was up to the student to follow through on a larger project, and VGDC helped, but then everyone uses Unity, so yeah.
But I mean, that's the point. What that comment mentions, GD Fotrot, was that it's kind of up to the student to follow through on a larger project. Yes, that's what I just said, right? Like it's literally like it's great that you do these cool things, but like yes, it's great that you do these cool things, but like they need to be something that makes you learn and understand. If you just repeat the information to me, that's not. It's like I'm talking to a textbook, which I guess I do want, but like not as someone to work on a project.
Yeah.
I do like talking, so I'll talk to inanimate objects. That's fine.
If you're a college student and you want to do game dev, please go to like every school has a club. Like I'm literally in a Discord with people who are from like UT Dallas now. Where, like there's a club in UT Dallas, and they're like now in that Discord. So like there is literally a game development club almost everywhere, and if there isn't one, make one. That's going to help you a lot.
Is that and that's what that VGDC
that's what this is. Like I met a lot of great networking opportunities through like the clubs around here. Like I have friends from the CSULB club. Nathan, who is actually on my project, was previously the president of the CSULB club. Peter, who I think is in the chat, was
GD
also.
If your school doesn't have a club, make one or find the nearest.
Yeah, seriously.
I agree.
Yeah.
Because there's national stuff too, right? Because Jim Rivers always talks about our recruiter that he goes through these clubs and then he does networking
has
stuff
a national
with them.
org, but
there's SGDA, which is
that's the thing. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah. Like that one is starting up, and then there's IGDA. But
that's not necessarily at the collegiate level.
Yeah.
Well, in terms of like clubs.
Yeah,
You can join as a college student, but there's not like an IGDA club usually.
Yep.
I think Kitty is asking some good questions. So what about interpersonal skills, working with teams? Would you say school helps teach you those communication skills or give you the resources to meet others? All right.
Stand back,
short
everyone.
of it is I'm eventually going to write ABET, who certified my bachelor's. The short of it is yes, but in the same way that projects, like if you do a project, it doesn't matter until you do a project on your own, the same thing. In order to be interpersonal and have those skills, you have to make yourself uncomfortable. You have to put yourself, you can get by doing the multidisciplinary classes like GEs, like an English course or a history course or something like that. You can get by with just doing your own thing and staying out of the way and just doing the work. You can pass no problem. But the advantage of those courses is they're making you interact with people that you don't interact with usually. And that is huge. Like my thing, like that the reason I even potentially have like the engineering manager role is because so many of my engineers have difficulty with that. And that's what I literally do. I help them with that. I made a career out of that shortcoming on that end. Like, and if we didn't have that, we would be excelling so much further. And I don't just mean this studio. I mean the industry as a whole.
Right.
Even aside from video games. Any tech industry, really. Like I have, and that's unfair to generalize that huge, but I would argue a larger portion. Like more than the majority of engineers just lack like strong skill set there.
I saw a lot of that in college.
Yeah.
For some reason, a lot of engineers just don't have, I haven't encountered it here. I actually think everyone here is quite personable, but a lot of engineers just don't have like very strong social skills, I find. College, I don't think, if you're just going to your classes, this is I think where I differ from Dom on this. If you're just going to your classes, most of the classes I went to were like do it yourself, don't talk to anyone, come and go, or don't even show up.
Well, that's where the club stuff comes in, though,
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Like,
With the club stuff, you get so much interpersonal like experience working on small teams, quick turnaround times, like getting to meet a lot of people, going to networking events, which sadly is like that's something you kind of have to do on your own time.
well, and that's what that was what Jim Rivers, what he stressed was making sure that you're going to, reaching out to these organizations and going to these meetups. And if you are not a strong, social personality, go find the person that's running the event, that's running the meetup, and tell them that, because they are used to that. That's why they're there. Like Dom was saying, this is what I do. Yeah. They're used to that. They're used to these personalities that are not used to socializing in big groups.
I actually wish that was the case. Like, I wish someone was comfortable enough to come to me and say, like, hey, look, I'm really uncomfortable around people I don't know. Can you introduce me to someone?
Right.
Is there somewhere that, like, like, I would love to do that. I'm like, oh my gosh, absolutely. And, like, the biggest thing, and you're absolutely right, like, inherently, it doesn't even have to be a club related to games or tech.
Yep.
Like, I think the reason I'm the way I am is actually because of marching band. Like, I did marching band for forever.
For me, it's the fighting game club at UCI. Like, those guys, like, I was kind of, like, not super personable. And then those guys are, like, loud, rambunctious fighting game players.
Yeah.
So you kind of got to go up to their level and be up to them. And, like, that helped me a lot.
So, again, I think the biggest thing, and we'll get to all those questions, I think the biggest thing is that college presents those opportunities, but they don't hand themselves out to you.
Yeah.
You have to pursue them, and you have to do the work on your own, but it'll mean the world. Like, if it comes down to it, and I have engineers of the same skill, but one is more able to play well with the team, it's not a question.
And that's not saying that you have to be like Dom,
you
like
don't
some
have to be
outgoing person, but just someone that that knows how to interact. It doesn't shut down around people.
Exactly.
That's the main thing.
Yeah,
and
if you stop communicating, that's a huge issue.
We have Zinubus that said, being in ASPE, I can attest there's a lot of ASD in engineering, and it's got its pluses and minuses. Yeah. And it's something, though, that's something that I really love about this industry, is that is something that is actually embraced.
Yeah, 100%.
But that being said, it can't be that it's so detrimental that you can't work with other people.
Right, and I think that's
where
the thing that
stepping out of your comfort zone comes in.
And I think, like, I have definitely worked with people that are like that, in the sense that they can function, they know how to function with it, and it's like it doesn't hold them back, and that's how they choose to operate. And that's what it's always going to come down to you. I'm not going to care, like, especially if that's the thing. Like, yes, Toastmasters is huge. I will always push Toastmasters. Toastmasters is a club where it forces you, literally the point of Toastmasters is it's a rotating thing where you get up and make a speech in front of other people, and everyone's doing it.
But that's what you're there for.
Yeah.
So it's not, everyone's expecting it. It's not like you're just in a random place and I'm going to do a speech.
But you're in a public space. It's not like you're in like you're in someone's house.
Oh, okay.
Like you're in a public space at like a restaurant, or like, and it's an event for that. So inherently they know what's going to happen, but like, it's a place to get up and just make yourself vulnerable in front of other people. But I completely agree. And those types of things help. And that's like, anyone that pushes for that or knows that, like, that's going to be really good, right? And that makes it more appealing for me as a hiring manager to, like, okay, this person is, like, even though maybe they're not out there every day trying to get to know new people, but if they're working on it, if they have the right attitude, that's all I care about,
We care about whether or not you're a jerk.
Yeah, that's actually the best way to say it. Are you a jerk? No? Okay, cool.
Right.
And this stuff isn't easy. Like, you have to really, really work on this. Like, the first time I went to Beer Wednesday, it was with my friend, and I felt brutally uncomfortable.
Yep.
Like, I left. I bounced out.
Yeah.
And then, like, 6 months later, I came back, and I was like, okay, let's get this going. And I've met some great friends at Beer Wednesday now.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, you this is stuff you have to train for.
Yep.
College isn't going to teach you it, but it presents the opportunity too.
Yeah. No, you're not. I sizzle. Actually, no, maybe you are, but I'm sure you're not.
No, but I do like that Jim's comment about, if you're in doubt and you're going to these events, always just find the person who's in charge.
Yeah.
And tell them, I suck at this.
Yeah.
Help me. Like, I'm here, I'm putting myself out there, but I need someone to help me make that first step, because they will do that. That's what they're there for. They know this industry. Like you were saying, there's a lot of people on varying spectrums, and they know that they need to help certain people.
I like Brian's approach. I train for beer drinking every day.
We're not talking about beer for once, Brian. Coming in late.
Can you scroll up? Pita Bread, right? Pita Bread? Pita Bread asked the question that for expected gameplay, math, skills. Does that include linear algebra? Yes. Basic trig? Yes. And basic geometry? Yes.
I'm so great at all those things.
Right?
No dot and cross product.
Yes,
those
definitely.
are very important.
Anything? Oh, what did you say?
And
Anything else?
The dot and cross product, definitely no. Like, and that's all under linear algebra, but like definitely that's what we focus on. You did, just because you called out specifically basic trig, basic geometry, I would say more than that, more than just basic. Definitely knowing those types of things. But those are definitely the core. Like, and when I do an interview, I'm asking variations on that stuff. If you're going the graphics route, a lot more math. Like, I'm going to ask you about reflection. I'm going to ask you about a lot of things related to vector math, basically.
Yeah.
And that definitely can also come in handy for the gameplay side. It's a matter of like picking what you like, and as long as you know some element of 3D math, that's all I care about. Random and vague, but any tips for unburning accidentally immolated bridges?
I read that and I was like, I literally have no idea what those words together mean. I'm hoping it's an engineer question.
No. What I'm going to guess, and if I can interpret, please don't burn me if I'm wrong, but I'm going to say they were talking with someone who maybe is in charge of hiring, and they said, "Fuck you," and now they would like to come back and say, like, wait, I've learned my lesson.
The metaphorical burning of bridges. I thought that this was still engineering terms. I don't know. They're talking about all this stuff that I'm like, no idea. There might be bridges in C++. Burning might be some term for some mathematical procedure that I didn't learn.
I've been working, like the last week, I've been working with a thing called a fence. Like,
yeah, see? You could have been burning the fence, and that could have been some term for
immolating fences.
Yeah. Fair enough. The quick answer to that question, I have fortunately never had someone tell me to fuck off.
Yeah.
But if I did, I would like to
formally unfuck you.
No, that was a held message, though.
Oh.
You should definitely allow it. Thank you. What I was going to say was I've never had someone tell me that. But if I did, and say they reached out to me a month later or however long and said, hey, look, I'm so sorry, I was out of line, like I've learned my lesson or I've grown as a person, or they gave me some valid explanation as to I won't do that again, I would consider talking to you. But
depends on what.
As Jim tells me, I am too nice of a person. So I can't guarantee that'll work with everyone. But for me personally, that would work. Again, it might have to do with the fact that I love talking.
Let's see, wait. Like regularly being an obtuse dumbass oddball, but never actually cross major lines.
That's so. I'm not the best at this. I kind of was a very anxious, angry person in college, and I had a lot of, hey, I'm sorry, I was being a dummy that day. A lot of times, it's actually in your head.
Did you want to allow
more
that? More
often than not,
Eric?
When I did something I thought was stupid or mean or something I wanted to apologize for, I would literally come back and say like, "Hey, I'm sorry, I was being a big dummy," and they're like, "What?"
Yeah. Well, and I think that's a good thing to have. Jim has told me horror stories of people who literally have told him "F you," and that's where I think like
go back on our YouTube. I think it was the last Jim Rivers talk on. It'll be on our YouTube, but he's had some stories of just. And the problem is, if you're a total jerk, like this guy was just a total asshole,
then you get blacklisted.
And they tell other recruiters at other companies. Yeah. So you always be nice.
Being an oddball is. Yes, I get hangry. Being an oddball is probably not going to get you.
It won't.
Like, that's not going to get you blacklisted. Being an outright asshole will.
Yeah.
The way I put it once is that this industry is too small to tolerate assholes. If you're being a dummy in a junior interview, there's a dummy as in like a mean person or angry person. You're probably not going to get through.
Yeah, but there's no reason to not have a good attitude. And like, it's one thing if just you're like, again, like a person who's built up defensive walls and things like that. I can read through that versus you being an actual like person who thinks you're better than me. For instance, it's like, okay, well, I don't need you here. And that's not an ego thing. It's literally like if you are like that with people you are going to work with, that's inherently not conducive to getting work done.
Well, that's the thing. You're not going to learn because you're always going to think that you're better than the person telling you what you need to do. And so that's a big red flag. Yeah. If you're going to be cocky and say, oh, I know more, then no one's going to want to work with you, and your managers are going to be pissed off all the time. So they're just never going to hire you.
When it comes down to it, Jolly was right. I need to keep my my spot on the top there. I completely agree.
Sorry.
Real quick, just because I think we've been on stream for, I'm going to guess 56 minutes. Yeah.
Strong.
We're going to reintroduce real quick. So for anyone who's joined us within the past few minutes or past 15 to 10 to 20 to 30, I'm Dominic. I'm engineering manager here at BSG. This is my co-host, Mimi. And this is our guest dev, Ittai. And we're talking about what it takes to do engineering in game dev. And in particular, like Ittai is someone that I met when he was pre-industry at school and who now works with us. And I'm so happy that he's joined us here. So we've been talking a lot about like what it takes to get in. Later, feel free to like rewind back or whatever it is you do on the Twitch and check out the earlier portions for some questions we've asked. But I just wanted to let everyone know who's joining now that we have some more people in. Let us know, or to let you know what's going on, and by all means, please continue asking any questions that you find relevant to.
I like so.
Oh, I thought that's the titties.
I couldn't see that.
I thought it said that too. I was like, oh no.
Yeah, okay. E-Tiger.
I didn't notice that our titles were changed.
Oh, are they really?
Yeah, it says E-Tiger, Sir Lord Squirrel, and Smartass Squirrel. Yeah,
perfect. That's about right.
E-Tiger.
As Galaxian says, this is a team-based industry. You got to be able to play nice with others. Exactly. Like it's huge.
Well, and if you mess up, and if you're a jerk one day, or you're under a lot of stress, Lord knows I've snapped. They've seen me. They've seen me flip my shit.
And it's scary.
And yes, it is scary. It's scary. But if you're someone that isn't learning from if you're just a jerk all the time, or if it becomes habit and you're just coming back saying, "Oh, I'm sorry," they're not going to believe it anymore, and then it's an issue. Like you need to be also.
Any studio knows you're human,
yeah,
right?
Yeah,
you don't always have 100% days, right? Like no one's going to get mad at you for like one day of whatever. Someone might talk to you and it might be addressed. Don't get me wrong. But like, unless it's like an actual like outright like F you or something completely unacceptable, right? You're just gonna have a talk with your manager or HR, and they're gonna say, "Hey, look, get it under control."
Like when you.
Yeah, like when I have to do it. Oh no, when I've exactly.
He has outbursts.
Yeah. But
those are just funny, but they're not.
They're not work appropriate.
They're not work
or whatever. Just because I use a bunch of slurs. No. The reality is, right, like everything is within context, right? There's things that come out titles a lot. So yeah, I may or may not realize if I cross invisible lines, but I notice explicit things like defriending or blocking on social media. Again, that's a different world. Like when it comes to being an engineer, I care about that. Can you engineer? I'm willing to work around other things as long as you're not a person who generally treats others poorly and is willing to learn. I want to adopt Dom and make a cute
sailor outfit.
I almost want to share a Facebook picture I have, but I'm not going to.
Yes. Oh my God, that's amazing.
Fantastic.
But I mean, Eric's response.
Oh no.
No, I feel like though. That's hard. Like these are different situations, and we honestly don't know you, so it's hard. But a lot of the time, it could be in your head, or it could be,
I would argue. I mean, the fact that you're aware is a huge part.
Yeah.
Right. Like the fact that you're aware that those things, matter. But I would say, like again, just because you're awkward or you feel like you don't fit in, that doesn't matter when it comes to the job. I literally care about, can you be a good engineer? That's all that matters.
And a team player. And if you do fuck up, then it's like, sorry guys, I had an episode and it won't happen again.
And I apologize.
And if it does, I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I apologize. But to me, that means like, being a team player is part of that. And you can get, a lot of engineers tend to have egotistical attitudes about their code or, things that they're doing, as they should, because they want to say, I'm doing the best thing and it's right. But ultimately, like, as long as you're willing to talk about these things and not react poorly, that's all that matters.
Something that I think a lot of, especially college-age engineers, don't understand is that, like, hey, you're human. Like, I've seen a lot of CS kids try to, like, weirdly and, like, misplaced idea and admiration just emotionally deaden themselves. Like, they're just like, I want to be the best programmer I can be, and the best programmer I can be is literally a computer that has, like, nothing.
Yeah.
And in doing that, eventually they end up running all the way this back way where it's just like, okay, now they're just super emotionally unhealthy.
Yeah.
But everyone understands, hey, you're human, and everyone expects you to be human.
Yeah.
Being human and having bad days is expected.
Exactly.
It's just if you're chronically a shitty person, then it's a problem.
If your bad days are starting to affect others around you in a way that's like damaging, I think then you really need to go and maybe take yourself aside. But if it's just like, man, I'm so fucking angry today. It's just like, okay, like, dude, just sit at your desk, chillax, drink like 3 coffees. Don't drink coffees, but just.
Well, and really, like, in my opinion, and maybe this is something more towards. To be honest, this is now where you break into like company cultures.
Yeah.
And I would say at BSG, if that was your case, like if you were literally telling me this, like I'm really mad, I don't want to deal with this, talk to your manager. Like literally talk to, because I help manage all the other engineering leads. I tell them you have to understand your guys and gals and whomever. Like you have to understand your employees. Like you can't just expect them to just output without dealing with them like they're humans.
Right.
Like, and so part of that is like you should have a good relationship with your manager. You should definitely like be like, it's one thing to treat your manager like a therapist. It's another thing to say like, hey, look, I'm just having a rough day. Like I just need to let this out. Like I feel bad because these are rough examples. Like like my dog died, or like my car got totaled, or any issue.
So I actually have a comment. So I know someone, I'm very good friends with someone who considers themselves slightly autistic and is an art producer for one of the biggest AAA games. If you're a producer and you have having mild autism is not going to stop you, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I at least believe it shouldn't. I think that, everyone, it's a spectrum for a reason. It's not binary about whether or not you can or cannot do this, but I think if you're describing yourself as mild autism, I think you really already are saying like, okay, I'm good. Like you can do this, and if you want to be a producer, like I think you can do this. It's just going to be a matter of like internalizing how you're doing certain things, maybe. But also, I sadly am. Well, I mean, I'm not autistic. I'm not in your shoes. I don't really know your life, sadly. But that's my personal opinion: is that you can be anything you want. Good.
Yeah, I've had. I mean,
but I did like that. Yes. Go to your man. They're asking. I'm mildly. If you can go to a producer and say, "Hey, I'm mildly autistic. Can you help me note if I mess up?"
I misread that question.
Yeah. No.
But it's true. Yeah, and I agree. Like, in general, right? Like, I mean, I can say this because I have friends now they're friends now that I work here, but like I have friends who are autistic that we hired. And like that's not an interview question. I'm not going to ask you that. Right.
That's an important point. Like they're not looking at that.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah. Ooh, Brian has a good question.
This is something I've always thought about. How long am I going to be in this past 30 plus? I want to be in this as long as I can. Honestly, so for graphics programming, there is very, very, very few places. Like I love graphics programming. Like I'm having a blast writing Vulkan code, despite what the world might think about Vulkan code. But essentially, I want to be in this as long as I can. Because I just don't see myself working at like a normal tech company. Like even like startups where it's like, hey, we have a ping pong table. It's like, no, I don't want to do that. Yeah. I want to make games.
But the ping pong.
We have a ping pong table.
We have a ping pong
here,
table.
and I don't use it. We have a pool table here, and I don't. Yeah. But like for me, I want to work in this industry as long as I can, because there's very few industries where I get to do the things I love and actually do CS work that strictly betters everything. Because I think that a lot of CS people work on stuff and they don't necessarily understand the repercussions of it sometimes.
Yeah.
But I think with games, it's like, look, I'm making someone's life objectively better.
Yeah.
Like I'm making their life more fun.
Yeah.
Hopefully it's objectively better. I know there's game addiction and all that, but
yeah. But
I want to be in this as long as I can.
No, and I think that's great, man. Like, cause like having that dream is good. And what's interesting, I not that this question was asked towards me, but I feel the same way. I want to be in as long as I can. And for me specifically with Blind Squirrel, I've also been here a longer time.
Are you just tying your shoe on the street?
Well, it got untied, and
because everyone could see that.
He's showing off his 6 shoes. Dude.
No, that was for Crispy, wasn't it?
What did that have to do?
Crispy, have you been seeing the crispy combo here? Yeah. This is great.
We have like those like. For someone asked like how many pool tables do you have? We have like 1 pool table, right?
No. We have the foosball.
We have the foosball table.
No, there's a pool table out on the center amenities area.
There's a pool table out there?
Yeah. They haven't given us sticks or anything.
What?
There's a pool table out there. There's
I didn't know that.
There's the cornhole things that are like built into the cement.
Yeah. The cornhole things. Yeah. I'll lose. I'll just be checking.
We had a cornhole tournament. We just had a cornhole tournament on Friday.
Guys, like this is such a great.
It's not an innuendo.
So, for the record, BSG is hiring.
Yes.
I'll be honest. I'm looking more for mid to senior level engineers, but still, if you refer someone, that might help. Like I'll talk with you. We can see what we can work out. But what kind of office of fun are you in? We are in an office of fun. Thank you, Crispy. And we just had a nice little summer barbecue last Friday.
That we put on a summer barbecue.
We'll come back to the question.
And we had a ping pong tournament. Ping pong and cornhole tournament with prizes. Yeah. And we had everyone stop what they were doing for 2 hours and come out. And we had a barbecue. So we try and do fun stuff like that.
Yeah. And like in general, like I mean, I feel especially as we're growing more, like we're definitely trying to keep a good community feel and not just have everyone kind of know each other. In engineering in particular, we've done things that I now say, like we have a new hire buddy that's on a different team. Because it used to be just the engineers on a team would know each other, but then they wouldn't know anyone else in the department. That really bothered me because I like talking to everyone, and it was just weird that people didn't know each other when I was talking in a group setting. I was like, what? You worked here for a year? It's like, yeah, I've never seen this person. It's like, they've literally been here. It's like, well, not where I've seen them. It's like, cool. So now.
You know what's a really fun story between me and my officer buddy?
Yeah.
Cody. So me and Cody both know this guy named, I'm going to redact his name.
Sure.
Who he worked QA at Idea Factory. He wasn't with me, but me and him met like months later and we're like, oh shit, you worked at that same company.
That's crazy.
And we were talking
you
and
didn't
talking.
even know though?
Yeah, no, I didn't know him. Like because he came in like a month after me. I left because my game was done. And after a while, it was like he got a job at Blizzard, QA at Blizzard, and me and him started talking. It's like, hey, you got it in Blind Squirrel? Do you know Cody? And it's just like, oh, okay.
What are the chances?
Yeah, what are the chances?
Yeah, and the industry is so small. And so
But which art are you talking about? Zanubas? This art?
I think so.
Because this is from our IP that we're working on right now.
Yeah, this is
from Drifters, our game that we're working on right now.
Yeah.
So no, it's not Obsidian.
But we also need help on. If you know gameplay, I'm still looking for another gameplay engineer. And or if you know back-end stuff, I could use that. Can you scroll up so I can read Brian's question real quick? Sorry, Eric. My question is to open audibly. I think longevity in this industry is rare. Yeah, especially doing the same thing for decades. Yes, most people progress in their older ages to producer type roles where they're not doing the work, they're doing all their career.
Fun thing, there's a guy on my team who's literally been doing game dev since the 90s. Like he worked on like the like Sega Saturn, I assume.
Yeah.
Like he's been in it. Like he's been doing it for a while.
Yeah, he's been here he's been in the industry a long time. It's very So we have some pretty cool people here. I like what Mr. Farleft's guy's glasses and beard combo. Keep up the great beard. Crispy's got a new
Ittai. Dom's gonna get jealous. Brian
cool.
started in the 90s too. Yeah. I always forget Brian's older than we think. He looks like he's about
it's that
18.
Canadian like laid backness. Like they like don't get aggravated. They're Canadian, like everything's fine, you know. I don't know what they say.
That Canadian glow.
I don't know. I feel like a moose is probably the most stressful thing they deal with. But I mean,
Mounties and moose.
To be honest, I wouldn't have guessed that either. Brian looks so young.
Mr.
Farleft guy, nickname unlocked. Yep. All right. Shit.
No.
There it is.
Name Mr. Farleft.
I am Mr.
Farleft. Sweet. Glad you guys are getting
raise your hand if you work for BSG. You too, chat. Well. Raise your hand. You work for BSG.
What? Oh. Sorry, I'm not reading. I'm reading the other ones.
Many people. No, I like Canadians. We have a lot that work here, actually. I have like 7-ish. I know I have at least 3. I actually don't know how many I have.
We have Kitty's a Canadian?
Okay. Kitty, Ravi, Helen, Brian. So that's at least 4. 4-ish.
Canadians are great.
I actually didn't know that for Starwolf. She's been in the industry since Game Boy Color days.
Wow.
I'm actually jealous.
See, here's the best part is I don't even know some of these people like that are in our studio.
Yeah, it's like, wait, this is actually how who works here? Wait, Crispy.
He's trying.
Oh wait, no, he was correcting his thing.
Oh.
Yeah, he's a pro joker of the office. I have that. Yeah, we can do that as a role.
Yeah.
Chief joke officer.
Crispy's gonna apply.
Yeah.
So if you want to apply, Crispy and others, we have positions at our blindsquirrelgames.com/careers is the page. Or you can just go to blindsquirrelgames.com and look at the careers page.
Yeah, so I think that's really good. As we have, I don't know how much time do we have left?
Someone like 15 minutes. 20.
Oh, we're good. Okay.
Nice.
Okay. I just want to make sure. See you guys in roughly 5 years. Okay. I'm down.
I expect it.
Yeah.
Crispy's way younger than we expect.
I have to, as a general thing, you have to be 18. I can't hire you unless you're like of legal age for me to hire you as a non-child labor thing. No. I assume it's 18. I don't know. Maybe each state is different.
It's 18 here in California, at least.
I'll assume whatever age of consent is.
Well, Blind Squirrel Entertainment or Blind Squirrel Games will take you to the same place. You're talking about in office. We can't access it unless it's Blind Squirrel Entertainment from within the office, which is a weird thing.
Yeah.
But people outside the office can do Blind Squirrel Games.
Crispy.
I'm 15. That's why I said 5
Anything
years.
a non-U.S. citizen should apply before. Oh, so the only thing I'll say is that we do allow for supporting visas and things like that. It just depends on, honestly, the interview. Like, it depends on the role you're applying for. There's a lot of caveats, but we will definitely, like, if we want you to work here, we'll get you to work here. I'll say that much. So I would still suggest submitting your application. I feel like Milo, I don't know anymore. You asked a question earlier that I don't know if we answered. I know we answered one of your questions, but I don't know if you did. The reason I mentioned that is because if we didn't answer one of your questions, Milo/Milo/1990, just ask it again and we'll answer it. In California, working age is out of high school. Okay, there we go.
18,
it's like vague. Like, there's like work permit you can get at like 14, but like it has to be like issued by a school. And honestly, like if you're still in high school, I don't know if you should be.
Well, and 16 you can too, but the problem is a lot of places will only hire you 18 because there's a lot of responsibilities that they legally, like if they want you to work late, you can't legally. Like when I worked at Barnes & Noble, we couldn't hire anyone under 18 because you had to work till midnight. And so because
there's curfew. I forget
you can't legally.
Yeah, it's so weird being old.
Those gosh darn child labor laws.
Yeah.
It's possible to get a GED.
I feel like someone should warn you.
Yeah. Can you guys say what aspects of past projects y'all did?
I'm playing Civ 6 right now. Yes. So Civ 6 we did UI. It was just a handful of guys working on that, but they did a lot of UI work on that.
I can't talk about it.
Yeah. Everything you've been exposed to hasn't come out yet.
Yeah. I can't talk about like anything.
Your lips are sealed. Dom knows though what can and can't be talked about.
I pretty much know anything.
What else could you say that we've?
I mean, it's interesting. Like, it's saying, can you guys talk about what aspects? Like, that's such a loaded question. I feel like it. So that's a big thing. That all comes down. So the question I'm responding to is I feel like I don't see your logo on games I've heard you worked on. That's because our logo doesn't always get in there. The way contract work works is it depends on what's in the contract. So sometimes companies just don't want us to, for whatever reason, be on the box or be in the like startup logos. But I guarantee you'll either find names from our studio or the studio name itself in the credits.
Right. But there are some that we're not.
It's even literally to the point. There are games I can tell you that are huge that you can see our studio name in the credits. But I literally, because of the setting, I can't tell you that here. I can only say play relevant games. And I can potentially come and meet you, potentially come and like you'll see that like the game is there, and that we've worked on it. So it all depends. There's only so much we can talk about, unfortunately. But for a lot of the games, I mean, one of the first titles I ever worked on was Disney Infinity, and that was a hot mess. It was a fun hot mess, though. It was just funny, a game like that from an engineering standpoint was really interesting because the more I worked on it, you found out that game was inherently meant to be like a movie game. Like it was going to be originally a Toy Story 3 game, the whole Disney Infinity series. And as it turns out, someone somewhere said like, hey, we should do what Spyro Skylanders is doing and have the little toys and make that. And clearly that's what they turned that engine into, which it was not meant to do. That engine was garbage. But it was fun working on it. Like it was really cool. And it was honestly a cool project. Eventually, that actually was my first Star Wars project, as it turns out. Because
proprietary engine?
Yeah, it was. It was a proprietary engine. But the third one, the Disney Infinity 3, finally had Star Wars characters. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm working on a Star Wars game. And it was actually really funny because we had, whenever episode 7 hadn't come out yet, The Force Awakens, and we were working on that content. And it was funny because I actually was switching off the project. And because episode 7 hadn't come out, Disney was huge on keeping that project under wraps. So we actually still have the room that's like a separate fob-only access, and that's where that project was. No one could see it unless you were on that project and you had approval. So it was
We've
great.
had a few projects like that. Some we still can't even talk about to this
Yeah,
day.
exactly.
Because there are things that we aren't even in the credits in that we worked on, and we're not allowed to ever say we worked on them.
Yeah.
But we did work on them.
But it's completely like it was cracking me up because like I'd have to walk in there to help people out because I spent so much time on that engine, and like I'd walk in there and I'd be like, okay, I don't want to see. What's your question? Like, and it was just funny. But
blindfolded.
yeah, it was great because I think a really cool part of that was just being able to work on a Star Wars project as I was transitioning off of it. But it was really neat. The other fun part of that people liked from it was, do you have to sign sign an NDA?
To work here, but also if someone's coming in, like if it's someone delivering food to the studio, you have to sign an NDA to even walk in through our doors.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that is because we work with so many companies that are very strict about keeping what we do under wraps. So
yeah, there's a lot. I mean, the game dev process. Ultimately what I'd like to do one day is have you guys like look at what we're doing. But for this exact, like, I would love to show you around the studio, like, look at what we're doing. But for this exact reason of signing an NDA, I can't have you do that.
Right.
So I will figure that out one day when maybe.
Well, when we do more Drifters stuff, we'll be able to be.
When Drifters, the problem is just now, right now, everything is so cross-integrated. If we have just like a Drifters area, like, that'll be really good. Yeah, because the pizza guy's going to walk in the door. Well, to be clear, I'm not going to carry the pizza. Yeah.
Dom's not coming out to meet them. Let's see. Wait, we have.
Have you even been going out? Yeah, literally.
I had to sign one.
Yeah,
like to interview. I've had to sign NDAs.
Yeah,
like I
if you come in
visited Blizzard
and
and had to sign an NDA.
Exactly.
Like, at the front door. If you're walking in a studio, you're signing an NDA.
Yeah.
Like that's just standard procedure across the industry, I assume.
Yeah, exactly. And like as he's saying, right? Like, or if the studio is large enough, maybe you go somewhere where it's not.
That's what he's saying. He's delivered to some spaces, and they don't NDA us. They just send us to safe spaces. Yeah, our places too. I mean, yeah, if they're going straight to the kitchen.
Like, I think I went in for an interview at a studio local here, but the studio was so sequestered off. Like, I literally didn't see anything in the studio. They still had me sign an NDA.
Right.
Wow. Yeah.
Like
it all depends. I mean, you take your chances, right?
Yeah.
So just as we start to wrap up, gang, just want to say thanks for joining us. And if you have more questions, feel free to reach out to us on Twitter and everything else. I forget what all we're on. Instagram, Facebook.
Which position? Like we
email.
have positions available.
Yeah, I know for sure the engineering ones. I'm sure we have other positions available. Good question, Crispy.
It's usually just a house in the valley, so probably not.
So probably not. But yeah, definitely check out our website. Again, for engineers, I'm looking for more mid to senior. So if you would like to apply, even if you're just a Twitch person, like you don't, not even just a Twitch person, if you have no professional experience, that's still fine, as long as you know engineering. That's all I care about. So definitely do that. And again, we want to say happy birthday to Mimi. Woo! Her birthday's tomorrow, so send her a happy birthday on the internets. And let her know that you guys care about her and that it's super fun. Thanks for all your answers and love y'all.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, we do appreciate Mimi. She's great. She does so much for this. Oh God! The squirrels.
Itai's not used to squirrels. This is what Eric puts on whenever it's like time to go.
This
is the wrap it up.
Like the second week I was here, I watched the stream and there was the one with the squirrel on like the bird feeder that kept on looping.
Oh yeah.
I thought that was a loop, and then I saw it fly off, and I was like, "Oh God!"
Yeah, it was on the feeder for that long.
This is our dance of the squirrels.
Yes.
Which the owl eats a squirrel.
It's pretty terrifying video.
No. Oh, Kitty says do a shot.
Well, I'm sipping it.
Yeah. How are y'all projecting my nightmare last night behind you? We incepted you.
We're sorry.
Thank you.
Yeah. So material. Oh no, you had an extra I.
Material.
Oh no, not an extra. You just put the I in there.
Material.
Yeah. If you guys have any other cool squirrel videos like this, please send them our way.
Yeah, we need new squirrel videos. Eric is disappointed that
the owl just
this is overdone.
That's what I'm telling you. Yeah.
He eats it. Oh, the salmon. Cue the salmon.
No,
Brian, don't encourage it. See, it's a pretty video.
We have a bunch of these videos from this squirrel.
Yeah, we should cut up more.
What was it?
It's all one big video.
Squirrel Nutkin.
Yeah.
If you just let it run, of course.
Yeah.
All right, we need to find. I'm gonna find more squirrels.
All right.
Can I give like 3 pieces of advice before we sign off?
Oh
you
yeah.
sure can.
Okay, Itai's gonna give.
To every game dev student out there, One, network. Go network, please. Just go do networking. Like being a part of a club, going to Beer Wednesday. I know it's like kind of tough if you're like in like I don't know like Ohio to network, but I'm sure there's a networking event in Ohio for game devs. Two, please try to understand what you're doing. Most of my game dev knowledge comes from me looking at Unity and being like, what the fuck is this actually doing in the back end? Just try to understand that stuff. And three, C++. If you're doing engineering, please learn C++ better. Like, I went to a school that actually taught me C++. It didn't teach me enough. Learn C++.
Instructions unclear, learn how to write netcode. I'll take it.
Dude, if you know how to write netcode, like, you're good. Like, netcode is hard. It's annoying and frustrating. Yeah. And people don't understand how difficult it is.
No, I completely back up everything he said. So do it. Do it to it.
Please understand C++ and networking.
All right, farewell, guys.
Hey,
you know what? Look, things just had an earthquake jolt in Laguna Hills. I felt it. That was why I just looked around.
Oh, wait, really?
I thought it was someone walking on the ceiling.
Oh, I didn't feel it at all.
All right, so I'm not totally nuts. We did just have a small earthquake, so.
No, yeah. Okay, bye, everyone.
Bye.